In order to get access to our images, we're going to implement UIImagePickerController. In the previous video, we learned to work with delegates and notifications using NSNotification. In this video, we're going to look at how we present a view controller modally. Then we're going to look at how we save a file to a file path. And finally, we're going to look at how we set the image view image. So as we said before, we want to add an image for our dream. And it just so happens that we have some images built into our simulator to test this out. But before we can access them, we first have to build the method that will allow users to do this. We have previously created this method, addImage, in our code. This is called whenever a user touches and then lifts their finger within the Add Image button on the storyboard. So let's put some code in place here to get access to the images. What I'm going to do is I'm going to create an image picker using UIImagePickerController. I'm then going to set the image picker delegate as my object. And then I'm going to present it. You'll notice that there is an error next to the ImagePicker.delegate. This is because, like the UI text field, the controller needs to conform to a delegate protocol. In this case, it's the UIImagePickerController.delegate protocol. So I'll add this to the top of the list of protocols. But it also needs to conform to the UINavigationController.delegate protocol as well. This protocol now allows me to see the image picker controller. But we still need to implement a few other methods that will allow us to accept the input. Let's put these in place. When I press cancel, I want my image picker to disappear. So I'll use the image picker controller did cancel, and then I'll dismiss my view controller. Then when I select an image, I want to save this from the image folder and transfer it to my project and set a URL path to it. So I'll use the image picker controller did finish picking. I'm going to dismiss the view controller, and then I'm going to do some let checking. I'm going to check if the media type is an NS object. I'm going to check if the image is a UI image. I'm also going to check if the image link is a URL. And there, where the media type is a type of image, that's where I'm going to add in all of my code. This constant that we're comparing to media type, KUTypeImage, is a special constant that requires a different framework to be imported, which is Mobile Core Services. The first thing I want to do is I want to set my image view as my image. Then I'm going to take a PNG representation of my image. I'll set up a variable here called filename, and this is where I'm going to build my path. I'm going to break the query down, and I get that by separating my string with and I'm going to look for ID and extensions. I do this by looping through my array and finding every item where it has the prefix of either ID or a prefix of ext. Then for each item that I find, I'm going to then split that by the equals sign. I'll do a quick check just to see if I have any items. Then if my item is ID, I'll add the second item to my file name. Otherwise, I'm just going to append everything else with a dot. Then, in order to build my path, I find the document directory in my applications. This is done by using NS search path directory, and then looking in the search path for the directories, which is .documents directory, and then looking in the domain mask, which is a user domain mask. I take the first path from that array. I then create my file path by adding my file name to the file path. And finally, I add all of the data to a new file at that file path. Let's see this in action by building and running the project. Fantastic. And now if I click on Add Image, I click OK to give access to my photos. Then I'm going to select a photo, and as you can see, it adds it to my image view. So now we have a name and an image URL for our dream. Pretty soon, they're going to start to come true. And so now we understand how to use the UIImagePickerController and the delegate that comes along with it. So in summary for this section, we've embraced the concept of Model View Controller and looked at how we can implement that in the application. We now understand the view lifecycle and each of the elements within it. And we've connected all of our user interface into our view controller. We've also worked with protocols and started to understand what they mean. And finally, we've looked at how we access the document directory structure to save images. In the next section, we're going to start looking at table views.